Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to Luke, part 2. This is lesson 5. The first video of the lesson, I'm going to look at the first 23 verses. This is a long chapter, wasn't it? But we're seeing some amazing details about the account of what happened in the last moments of Jesus' life. And so we saw in the study that this was the time of the feast of Passover and unleavened bread. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail of that because we've got other videos where we've shot a lot of stuff and talked about that a lot. But we do know that the chief priests and the scribes wanted to kill Jesus, but they didn't want to kill him during the feast. You did cross-reference it on the Feast of Passover on what day that it occurred on and that type of thing. But keep a couple of things in mind, okay? The Passover was the 14th day of the month in the sun, or Abib, okay? That was a day of preparation. They prepared the meal, and they actually slaughtered the sacrifice in between the evenings, between noon and 6 o'clock at sunset. So it would have been 3 o'clock in the afternoon. When they sat down to eat the meal, it became the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the 15th day of the month in the sun. And so that was the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which lasted for 7 or 8 days. These feasts became somewhat synonymous, quite like we do the holidays when we talk about Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. And so they did not want to kill Jesus during this time because it was a high holy time. This is really important to understand the timing of what happens in the life of Jesus. Well, during this time we saw in our reading that Satan entered into Judas. Satan didn't enter into Jesus, but in Judas, and betrayed him. Also, I want you to understand this, that this was not the Passover meal proper. I don't know why people don't pay more attention to this, but there's no way that Jesus could have had the Passover meal proper and had been the Passover meal. Think about that. We know that he's the Passover lamb. The true Passover meal would happen the next day, or the same day, I should say, or the next day. Depends on how you look at it. Remember that the Hebrew day begins at sunset. So it was already the 14th day when Jesus was sitting down right here. He would be killed later on during this day as the Passover lamb. So Jesus said, I longed to enter into this Passover. He wanted to share this communion with him. But he said, I'm not going to eat this type of meal again and have this thing with you until we enter into God's kingdom. And then he expressed what happened when he was breaking the bread. He was actually establishing a new covenant meal. And this covenant was prophesied. You did a lot of homework on that. You looked in Jeremiah and saw what would happen. And Jesus says, literally, this bread is my body. The wine is my blood. This is the picture of what's happening here. Jesus tells what's going to happen to him, that he will be betrayed. But he also told him this, that I'm going forth. And we've seen how he had set his face toward Jerusalem already. He said, I'm going forth right now because God is in control. That's literally the word for us today. So y'all keep pressing on. I'll see you next time.